Hello and welcome to Brain Says Strange Things. I'm Patrick, this is my brother Jordan, and this is the podcast where we talk to you about horror movies, or at least monster movies, which we will be doing in this episode when we review the new summer blockbuster from Guillermo del Toro, Pacific Rim. I'm really excited to talk about this movie. We've also decided to pair it with a Godzilla movie, Godzilla Against Mechagodzilla, which I thought would be a good match for this film for a variety of reasons. But we'll get into that movie a little bit later and start off with our review of Pacific Rim. So Pacific Rim is basically a story about a world in which interdimensional monsters known as kaijus have been attacking the Earth and destroying major cities around the world. The counterattack to the kaijus that humans have come up with are giant mechanized robots piloted by human beings known as Jaegers. And for a while, the humans are doing pretty good against the kaijus in their Jaegers. The Jaeger robots are piloted by two humans who are connected psychically to each other and also to their robots. So it's a really interesting kind of setup that they've got going. Right? Yes. Am I describing it right?
Yes, I'm just realizing how silly it sounds.
Yeah, it sounds pretty silly, and it is pretty silly. I mean, but it's also kind of cool. So the humans are connected to each other psychically while they are piloting these robots and fighting these giant monsters. Our main character is at first paired up with his brother, and they are...
They have a podcast.
Yeah, they pilot a Jaeger called Gypsy Danger, and they're kind of the best they are at what they do. But unfortunately, the brother of the main character is killed during one of the battles while the brothers are psychically linked up, which is, of course, very traumatic for our main character. This all happens in the prologue of the film, and the main action takes place about 5 years after this devastating battle. Our main guy has dropped out of the Jaeger program, which is being shut down by the military. Idris Elba plays the commander of the Jaegers, and when his funding is cut off from the government, he's like, fuck that shit, and he goes off and essentially kind of salvages the 4 remaining Jaegers and their teams to kind of launch a last-ditch effort to save humanity, which is really on the brink of destruction. So they cancel the apocalypse. They've got a crazy plan to take out the kaijus once and for all. And our main character has to come back and pilot his Jaeger Gypsy Danger along with a new co-pilot. So that is kind of the premise of the movie, and a lot of that
is... quite the premise.
It is quite the premise, and a lot of that exposition is really crammed into like the first 10 minutes of the movie, and the majority of the runtime is really concerned with, what everyone wants to see, which is giant monsters fighting giant robots. So I'll say right off the bat that I really enjoyed this movie. It wasn't a perfect film, but I liked it quite a lot. But before I go into it too much more, let's get Jordan's take on Pacific Rim. What did you think of this movie?
I'm probably in the same boat. I thought it was really good. Mm-hmm. I liked it. I had quite a few problems with it. Story-wise, I thought it was fine.
Mm-hmm. I thought it was pretty cool story-wise.
Yeah, the characters I liked. Mm-hmm. Basically, the actors I liked. There's not much character in the movie, but that's fine for what it is, because it's just kind of like a silly... it is silly. I mean, even that made it sound even more so, describing it like that. But I like the whole campy part of it. They didn't take it too seriously.
Yeah.
How could you? I mean, I don't know if you possibly could.
Well, unpretentious is kind of the word that kept coming to my mind with this movie. Yeah. Like, Del Toro wanted to make a movie that was just kind of like an homage to the great, like, kind of Japanese giant monster, giant robot movies that he enjoyed in his youth. And it didn't really have any kind of social significance beyond that. There was some nice character work in it. It had some very broad themes about humanity coming together and overcoming our differences. Yeah. But mostly it was just a good kind of like...
And learning from others who are different than you, because they have to mind meld, or they have to, whatever, neural handshake each other.
Yeah, the neural handshake.
I don't know, I guess I would probably say like a B. Like,
solid B.
Yeah, not an A, but a B, maybe. not a B plus. I had a lot of fun watching it. We saw it in 3D, and I have a feeling I would have liked it a lot better if it was not in 3D.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I didn't like that part of it. Like, typically I don't like 3D, but that it was kind of distracting because it always is just blurry to me.
Yeah.
Even the best of it is always, I don't know. I don't like it.
Okay.
So I think I would have enjoyed it better than that, but I don't blame the movie for that, So I don't know. What you liked it as well? Or?
Yeah, I liked it a lot. I agree with you. There was not like a lot of nuance or depth or complexity to the story, but again, that was kind of by design, and that's kind of what I enjoyed about it. I like that it just kind of was what it was. It was a movie about robots fighting giant monsters. I thought all of the stuff with the humans and the robots was really well done. I thought the characters...
Well, what else is there?
Well, I mean, there's also the monster... I feel like there's two kind of genres that are coming together here. There's like the giant robot genre, the mecha genre, and then like the kaiju genre, the giant monster genre. Like sometimes those things have been put together in the past, sometimes they're separate. So as like a mecha movie, in terms of like humans piloting giant robots, I would give it like an A+. As a kaiju movie, like a giant monster movie, comparing to like Godzilla films, the best of the Godzilla films, I would give it maybe a B, because I think there are some things that could have been done better there. But what I liked about the movie was I thought the robots looked really cool. I love the idea of the drift, this kind of psychic connection and the neural handshake.
That was a good touch to it.
And I thought it had just the right amount of kind of human drama that played out against this larger backdrop. Because I have this theory about giant monster movies in that the key to really making them work, the best ones in my opinion, have kind of a perfect balance between the human drama and the giant monster action. I think if you go too far in one way or the other, it's less successful. And the best films in that genre kind of have a blending of the two, which is why I think the original 1954 Godzilla, that's one of the many reasons it's such a great movie, because the human drama and the love triangle at the heart of that story plays directly into the story with Godzilla, and it's just kind of like a perfect example of how to do that. And I thought they struck that balance pretty well in Pacific Rim. So I really like that. Areas for improvement, I think I like the 3D. I think the 3D actually added a little bit of depth to it, so I enjoyed that aspect of it. I thought it worked well here. But I do think, and maybe the dimness and blurriness that come with 3D was a part of this, some of the battle sequences were a little hard to follow for me. Did you find that?
That's one of my complaints, actually, that you talk about things being dim. I did not like that every single fight scene took place in the dark.
Yeah.
And at night or underwater. Underwater fight is probably the best one, though, but just do that one. Like, you need a scene where you can kind of see everything that's going on. And I thought it just looked like a missed opportunity, because I think it would have worked really well. The special effects were great for what you could see.
Yeah.
When things were up close like that, you could see, like, in detail what it looked like, and it did look like actually to scale, and like the buildings, it looked realistic, which is what you want.
The movie looked great, like what you said, like when you can see clearly what you're looking at, it looks great.
So it wasn't a matter of like they didn't want to show it because they didn't have the technology. I was just kind of thinking, like, why don't you do it? Like, I was waiting for the sun to rise and they fight like at daybreak, and I was like, all right, this is going to look amazing, and it never happened.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think for the most part, I thought the battles were really well done, and that is really what you have to nail in a movie like this, because again, there's not too much more to it. There's stuff going on with the characters. There's, character wants revenge. These characters have to get along. There's something going on with Idris Elba's character. And
they're good actors. I like that guy.
Oh yeah, very well cast. But at the end of the day, we want to see some great fights. And for the most part, they were really cool. I like that the kaijus had like different abilities, different powers, if you will.
Sort of.
Yeah, but they had, they could do different things.
Yeah.
And, like there was one that flew. Like the aerial battle I thought was really cool. Yeah. When they used the sword and everything. But there were times when I was like, man, you've really got to focus in here so you can tell what's going on. It's a lot of very quick moving action, flashing from the human character's perspective inside the Jaeger, back out again to see them fighting the monster.
I didn't have a problem with that necessarily. It was just like it was dark.
dark.
It was dark.
Yeah. No, I agree. I totally agree. I wish there had, Del Toro obviously put in a lot of thought into like having a variety of types of battles, but I wish he'd pushed that a little bit further. I would have liked to see a daytime battle.
They would have just needed like one.
Yeah.
Like, it didn't necessarily have to be every
Yeah.
Because like I said, I like the underwater one.
Yep.
Because it was just kind of not typical. Like,
Yep.
you don't really see that.
Yeah.
And it looked real that they're like moving a lot.
Yeah.
It looks like they're actually moving underwater. And I don't know, it was cool. But I do wish I could have seen it better.
Yeah.
It's like in addition to it being kind of blurry in 3D, I'm also kind of like, what am I looking at this
Yep.
point? So
Yeah, I agree. So I think that's like, and that would be an area of improvement for it. It didn't like really distract me too much because for the most part I did like those battles, but I agree with you. I wish it had been a little clearer. I also wish like the designs of the kaijus, I wish he would have pushed it a little bit more. I mean,
yes.
Yeah, he did, they're all distinct from each other, but
And
I
it's
wish
kind
they
of
had
set up
been,
that they're all supposed to be clones.
they
of the
all
same
have a
species.
common origin, so there's kind of a reason why they look similar to each other,
Yeah,
but in my mind I compare this to like, because if you have been listening to the interviews with Del Toro, he's like a hardcore like Toho, Ishiro Honda, Godzilla fan. Like he knows these movies, and this really is his homage to those. And I was, comparing it to those movies, which is inevitable.
You kind of want to see his version of Mothra and his version of
And I feel like this
got
kind of was that, but it's like I feel like maybe he was a little afraid to push it quite to that level. Because when you think of like those Toho monsters, you think of any of them. Godzilla, Anguirus, Mothra, King Ghidorah, they are immediately very distinct from each other in look, abilities, and color. I think if they had varied the color of these monsters a little bit, that would have helped a little bit. So that's something that I think they could have improved.
I feel like I could see like a photo of one of the kaiju in the movie, and I'd be like, oh, this one was it? I wouldn't be able to distinguish.
Yeah, it was a little...
For a lot of reasons, because they're very similar.
Yeah.
They did look cool, so that's a hard criticism to make, that they needed to vary a little bit from each other.
Yeah.
And even the one that flew, it looked exactly like the other ones, except all of a sudden he magically sprouted wings. And
at the end too, when there's like, coming out of the rift that leads into their dimension, they're like, oh, this is the first Category 5 kaiju we've ever seen. I'm like, oh, this is going to be something...
Yeah, what does that mean? He's like 5 feet taller?
Clearly distinct from what we've seen previously, and it was just another kaiju that kind of looked like the other kaijus. So that's why I give it an A+ for the mecha, but like maybe only a B for the kaijus. He tried, but I wish he would have pushed it a little more. I wonder if maybe... having scenes at night and not pushing the designs of the kaijus into a little bit more extreme kind of area. He was maybe a little afraid to do that. He's like, I don't know if people will buy that. I don't know if people seeing this in broad daylight with multicolored monsters, that might be a little too much.
If people are in the theater in the first place, who are here, and they're seeing it even despite it being called Pacific Rim, and they're talking about kaijus.
Yeah,
I think they would have gone for it.
Yeah, I do. So I wish I think he nailed the Jaeger.
Well, here's one weird thing about it
is.
Pushed it so how did you like that they were not like, we're gonna have to spoil things, but that they're not aliens, they're from like another dimension.
I like that.
I like that a lot.
I like a lot of the ideas he came up with, because I feel like he looked...
They didn't come from the stars. They
came
from another dimension.
Well,
because
I feel like what Del Toro was doing here was he was looking at these Japanese monster movies, which he loves, and he's like, okay, how can I make this work for an American audience in like a modern movie? Is like, well, I want to have a lot of different kinds of monsters, which there was never really a good explanation for back in the old Toho movies. It's just like Baragon would just show up like, where did that monster come from? Why does he look like that? Why is there only one?
See, that's where I was kind of going with that point, is that when they start to explain it more, I like the fact that they know a lot about kaijus, and there are people who are like obsessed with kaijus, even though they, like the guy has a bunch of kaiju tattoos.
Yeah, the scientist.
That character, like, I like that character. I like pretty much all the characters in the movie, because you can tell like it's a Del Toro movie because they were like designed almost. The human characters are like designed.
Yes.
The guy's got a leather jacket, he's got tattoos, he's got big glasses.
Yes,
he's like a nerd.
it's very
There's a very German
visual
scientist
Yes.
who like writes on a chalkboard. You know,
Yes.
he's got a cane.
Yes.
You know, it's very
even the pilots, like the Japanese girl had like, you know, purple highlighted hair. The Russian, you know, pilots look very distinct. Yes.
But when they're starting to go through the story of, on one hand, I like that they kind of created like a whole mythos of what kaiju are.
Yeah, and they came up with an explanation for how they could all look different.
And there are like little creatures that live on the kaiju.
Yeah.
It didn't even factor into the plot, but it's like a nice little touch.
And they had people who were harvesting kaiju organs and things like that. That I thought was a cool idea.
But then they start putting it together, and it pushes the limit of being like too silly, where they figure out exactly how to defeat them.
Okay.
Like essentially, they have to drop an atomic bomb into this rift, and then it destroys it. And I feel like that stuff just happens like way too quickly. They discover how to do it. They rush over there. They're like, "No, you have to disguise yourself as a kaiju. You need to like." I don't know. I wish they wouldn't have explained it that much almost. And the whole part about him mind melding with the kaiju, it didn't make any. It's not that it didn't make sense because the whole story doesn't like. You know, you have to suspend belief, you know. But it just had nothing to do with anything else, I guess. It was it was just kind of weird. It was distracting. And then there was that point where the kaiju was like coming for him because he had mind melded with it. And then it came up to him. It was about to attack him, and then it like left. I did not get that.
Yeah.
What does that have to do with anything?
Yeah. I don't know that part of it I really understood either.
Like, I just thought, like, it was going somewhere, and then it stopped, and then you were supposed to kind of forget it, but I was still thinking about it. And, you know, so there may be, like, tiny little plot loose ends like that that I found, like, kind of distracting, I guess.
Yeah, maybe.
But ultimately, I kind of have to let them go, because I did just enjoy it as a big spectacle, robot punching a monster in the face.
Yeah. I guess for the most part, I enjoyed a lot of the stuff that you're talking about. I agree with you that the monster coming up after the scientist, I didn't quite understand it, but I didn't find the whole like investigations into the origins of the kaiju or the mind melding with the kaiju brain or whatever he was trying to do to be distracting at all.
Yeah, whatever he was trying to do.
Yeah,
that's what.
Well, he was trying to like link up with. They had ability to like mind meld in this movie essentially, and he was trying to do that essentially with a kaiju. To try to figure out where they're coming from, why they're attacking, how to defeat them.
And then he finds exactly how to do it, and then
I don't know. To me,
the closest I could compare this movie to is not like on a quality level, but maybe story-wise, it's like Independence Day. There were so many parallels between that and Independence Day.
Well, I feel like that's damning it with.
Independence Day is not a terrible movie. It's almost okay for what it is, but. I kept thinking that it almost follows it, like the story.
I haven't seen Independence Day and close enough, but I don't know. For me, the story worked. It had the right level of complexity, enough to
it's not complex
support the battles, and I don't know. I thought it was interesting. I loved everything with the mind melding and the drift. I thought that was a really interesting concept. I mean, the other thing I thought about this movie too is like all these concepts that they threw out there, like the drift and these people who harvest like organs from kaijus, and there was even a reference to like the fact that kaijus would like irradiate areas of like the earth. That was just like thrown out there really quick in exposition, creating this chemical like kaiju blue, I think they called it. Del Toro's created a whole universe here, right?
I guess that's why I found it distracting.
See, I didn't find it distracting. I found it enriched.
I do like that part, and I love that part about pretty much anything like stories or movies.
Yeah, like it takes place in like a real world that exists.
It just feels like you're dropped into the middle of this world that's already been going on before you were there.
Yes, and it will continue after.
But I feel like in that world, they wouldn't have been able to figure that out so perfectly. Like, don't those kind of go against each other?
I guess. I don't know. To me, it was a good... It's
like I wish they would have tried a theory and like it didn't work or something like that. They accidentally figured it out.
Yeah, but then that would have taken a scene away from one of the battles. You know what I mean? Like I feel like it was.
That's why I said like ultimately I kind of let it go.
Yeah, like I feel like it was just the right level of complexity. So whatever. So that's kind of I guess where we come down on the movie. But ultimately we both really enjoyed it. I thought it was really good. I mean, I think if you like big summer movies, I hope people give this one a chance because it's not a remake, it's not a sequel. It's just a good time.
It's original. It's
an original concept, and I thought it was really cool. So, definitely check it out if you like giant monster movies. You're have probably already seen it.
Who doesn't?
So, yeah, who wouldn't want to see this movie? It's great. So we really enjoyed it with a few minor caveats, but for the most part, this is a really great film. We wanted to pair it with a Godzilla movie, partly because I've just been like dying to actually review a Godzilla film on this podcast, which we haven't done yet. So I tried to think of one that would be a good match, and I came up with Godzilla Against Mechagodzilla, which is, I think, a 2002 Godzilla film, part of the Millennium series, which is the third and final cycle of Toho Godzilla films. So this one, of course, features Godzilla in battle against Mechagodzilla, the robot.
Let me sum this one up.
Yeah, sum this one up for us, Jordan.
Okay,
Take it home.
I'm going to do my first summary of one.
All right.
Well, maybe I've done it before, but all right. So they create a robotic Godzilla to fight Godzilla.
Sounds like a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
Similar to the way that they created Jaegers in the film Pacific Rim to battle
So then he
the
fights
Tiger.
them for a while,
Yep.
and then Godzilla gets away, and they're all happy.
Uh-huh.
That's it.
That's it. There's more to it than that, actually, I think.
There's a little girl with a plant.
There's some parallels to some more parallels to Pacific Rim, because we have before Mechagodzilla was developed, we have a person who's part of this military, force designed to battle giant monsters.
Someone had died under her control.
Yeah, someone died under her
despite
command.
her making a mistake.
So she's kind of like riddled with guilt, and she's essentially kind of grounded, but she wants revenge against Godzilla, and she wants to, be involved in the Mechagodzilla program, and that there's a similar character in Pacific Rim, and then she's given the chance, and at the end of this movie, she actually crawls inside of Mechagodzilla and is piloting it, kind of in the way that they pilot the Jaegers in Pacific Rim. So it was a good match for that movie. I don't know. I thought this was... I mean, you got to examine everything in context.
It was entertaining.
Looking at it right next to Pacific Rim, it's obviously like really cheesy in terms of the special effects. But in the context of Godzilla movies, certainly that era of Godzilla movies, I actually think it's a pretty good one. I thought the battle sequences were very well done. And unlike Pacific Rim, you could very clearly, parse the action in those scenes. It was...
And I think there are probably better examples of fight scenes in Godzilla movies.
Oh, for sure. No, this wasn't the best.
My problem with that movie was, well, despite all the very problematic story elements.
Yeah, it was very cheesy. We watched the dub version, which is really not very well done.
That's okay, but I don't know. I feel like it came out like at the time when computers special effects were just kind of starting out.
Yeah.
And it's almost like they felt like they need to put it in there.
Yeah.
It was kind of distracting.
Yeah.
It throws Godzilla and it's like flying at the camera. It's just like a still
Well,
image
I will tell you, this is like, far from the worst example of bad CGI
I know that.
in Godzilla movies. And it's interesting.
It's like they shouldn't have even tried it at all.
Yeah, well, it's interesting with the Godzilla movies because this is one of like the newer Godzilla movies, right? And in a way, those newer ones have not aged as well as the Godzilla movies from the 1960s. Because you can look at the ones from the 1960s, and while the techniques that they're using are outdated, miniatures, people in suits, etc., you can sort of admire the craft of it. And in the best of those movies, it really was cutting-edge special effects at the time. When you look at the 2000s Godzilla movies...
Did those play in theaters, or were they just like a direct-to-DVD?
Oh, no, absolutely,
Okay.
yeah.
I mean, I know they didn't play in American theaters, but...
Yeah, no, they were released into theaters, believe it or not.
But
that's the thing, the 2000
someone paid
ones,
money to see that.
because they incorporate computer-generated special effects, which probably even at the time were not as good as what we're playing in like American... special effects movies.
I don't fault them on that.
No, but they don't age as well. They date the movies very, very quickly. So this one
It's like putting Vanilla Ice into your musical number at the end of your movie.
Yeah, the special effects are going. You wish they had just stuck with the miniatures a lot. Although they didn't overdo it with the CGI in this movie.
They didn't, which is why I had a problem with it, because it's just like a little...
They
few little things, and the few things that they did do were distracting.
They could have easily not used it at all.
So it's like, if you're not there yet, I mean, I've talked about like pushing the envelope, with special effects in your movies. Like, try anything,
Yeah.
But they should have seen that that's quite like it's not there yet. And like that era, like the 2000 whatever it was, like 2 and stuff.
Yeah.
They're just kind of getting the hang of it. And I don't know, I didn't like that part of it. Because I thought the fights, when they're just like the two guys in the suits fighting each other, I thought that worked perfectly fine.
Yeah.
So, it's almost like they got too far ahead of themselves, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I agree.
It's hard to, like, seriously, critically analyze this movie, but I guess that's the best I can do.
Yeah. But I mean, I guess I know going in that the Millennium Godzilla movies do have kind of sometimes CG or cheesy CGI.
Yeah.
Knowing that going in, looking in the context of those kind of movies, I do think this is a good Godzilla movie. I think the fight
it was entertaining.
I think the fight between Godzilla and Mechagodzilla is cool when it's not relying on CGI.
Mm-hmm.
And I like the idea, the story here of cloning Mechagodzilla from the bones of the original Godzilla and making him kind of a cyborg who has some kind of a vestigial personality, which they play with a lot more in the sequel to this movie, Godzilla Tokyo SOS.
Vestigial.
Yeah. Wow. Vestigial.
No, yeah, it's good.
Yeah. So it's a cool story, you know. Again, in context. The themes are a little heavy.
The funniest part of the story is after the credits roll, they finish the plot.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. The resolution to the character story takes place after the credits.
Is that like that's after the credits scene, which is supposed to be a bonus, and then it's the rest of the story.
Maybe we should have stayed for after the credits in Pacific Rim.
Oh, maybe.
Who knows what?
The main character dies or something.
Yeah. So anyway, so yeah, but
I think we both kind of enjoyed these the same way, each one on the same level. I think so. We're pretty much in agreement.
Pretty much. So. But so at the end of the day, definitely go see Pacific Rim, and
not in 3D. That's my recommendation.
Okay, anyway. Fair enough. I like the 3D, but I think it would be good in 2D as well.
Different strokes for different folks.
Yeah, I wouldn't think it would be necessary for this movie. It was converted into 3D. Post-production, I know.
Oh, really? That explains it, I think.
Yeah. I think that's the case for the vast majority of 3D movies now, I think.
That's true, but I don't see the vast majority of 3D movies, so that's why I bet that's what kind of threw me for a loop. So,
yeah. I'm usually willing to give 3D a shot. I don't know why. But, so anyway, go see Pacific Rim, 2D, 3D, whatever. And, watch a Godzilla movie or two when you get home. Not necessarily Godzilla Against Mechagodzilla, but those are the movies.
You'll enjoy it.
Those are the movies that inspired Guillermo del Toro to make Pacific Rim. And the film is dedicated to Ishiro Honda, who directed the first and many other Godzilla movies. So it's just good, giant monster fun. I really liked it. Okay, so I think that'll do it for this giant monster versus giant robot themed episode of Brain Says Strange Things. It's always,
Kaiju Lie.
Yeah, what? Kaiju Lie?
Kaiju Lie? Like it's July and it's kaijus?
All right, cool. Okay, I'll go with that.
They can't all be winners.
Yeah. So, as always, we encourage you to like or comment on this video, subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to check out the Brain Says Strange Things Facebook page where we post teasers for upcoming episodes and all kinds of cool horror-related links.
Who knows what will be next?
Yeah, so check us out there. And see us back here soon for a new episode of Brain Says Strange Things. We'll be back. Thanks for watching.
Farewell.
Bye-bye.